Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. Today's guest is Tosca Lee. Hi, Tosca.
Hi.
Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Tosca is a best-selling American author known for her historical novels and novel thrillers. So when did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
Well, it wasn't until college, because when I was younger, I was really set on becoming a professional ballerina. And when I was about 14, I got injured. And so I realized, this probably isn't going to work out the way I had hoped. So I changed course a little bit, and I went off to college in Massachusetts, and I came home my freshman year for spring break. And I was talking to my dad. We were in the car and we were having a conversation about books. And I was always a big reader, always loved reading. And I was talking about one of my favorite books of all time, and about how a great book is a lot like a roller coaster, because you've got your ups and downs and twists and turns and things like that. And that day I just blurted it out. And I said to my dad, I think I'd like to write a book. And the idea was, I had so much enjoyed these roller coasters that other authors had built for me, and I wanted to know if I could build one for someone else that they could enjoy. So my dad said, okay, Tosk, he called me Tosk. Okay, Tosk, I'll make you a deal. He said, I was supposed to work that summer at the bank for the second summer in a row as a bank teller, which was a great job for me being at that age, but I was so bad at it, and I was so awful. And I couldn't remember people's names and faces, and my drawer never balanced because I'm not good with numbers and things like that. Basic math, stuff. So Dad said, I'll make you a deal. He said, I will pay you what you would have made working at the bank this summer if you write your first novel, do it first time, and treat it like a job. And so, that was a no-brainer. So I said, sure. And I came home, and I didn't really know that, a couple months in the summer, because the first month of my summer was already spoken for. My dad had signed me up to go to Oxford and study economics, which I'm not good at either. I didn't really know that 2 months was kind of not a lot of time to write the epic historical novel about the Stonehenge people during Neolithic times that I was planning. And so I did it because I didn't know any better. And I remember sitting down to write it. I had gathered all this research when I was over in England and all these books and stuff. It was 1989. So we didn't have the internet or Wikipedia or all that. And I remember sitting down to start writing it and trying to research and read all this stuff. And I just thought to myself, gosh, there's so much information to keep track of. And this seems really hard. And I realized I had no clue what I was doing. And so I just kind of pushed ahead, because the only way to learn how to write a novel is to write a novel. You can't plan it forever. At some point you have to jump in, right? And so that's kind of how it started. And the next summer I tried to get an agent for that novel, and I sent it off. I wrote the letter. They requested the full manuscript. And back in that time, you had to print the whole thing out and put it in a paper box, a Kinko's box for a ream of paper, and send it off that way. Things were different. And then you had to send enough postage so they could send everything back and reject you through the mail. And I got soundly rejected. But one thing they said in the rejection was that this book reminded them a little bit of Clan of the Cave Bear, which was one of my favorite books of all time. And so all I took away was, maybe I should keep trying to do this, and maybe one of these will finally stick. So that's how I decided I wanted to do it. I didn't get my first novel published, though, and it wasn't that one. That one's still in the basement. But I didn't get my first novel published until 2007. So it took a little bit. Yeah, it took a little bit to write, one that was ready, and to finish it, get it ready to go in between life and, all that stuff. And I've been publishing novels ever since. And now I do it full time. So
are you doing full time now?
I write full time for the last 10 years. I've been writing full time.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It's really amazing. I just want to make a statement on the bank teller thing. I 100% agree with you because I was a bank teller and I'm terrible with counting.
That
Mine
was
was
so
always
embarrassing. Like every night my drawer was off, and it's like, what did I do
mine
wrong this time?
too. Mine too. I was like, how am I $1 short? And they was like, well, you gave someone an extra $1. I was like, what?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're the first person that I've told that story to who understands having done it before.
Yeah, and I was a cashier too, and my drawer was always under. I'm like, what am I doing?
What am I doing wrong here?
Right. So, what inspired you to write your novel, The Line Between, and its sequel, A Single Light?
Okay, well, let me tell you that story. First off, so this is The Line Between right here. This is the paperback version. And this is the hardcover of A Single Light right here. So what happened is I went to New York to meet with my publisher, Simon & Schuster, and to talk about, I had 2 books left on that contract, and to talk about what should these books be. I had just come off of 2 thrillers, another duology. And so I went with a list of favorite ideas, and they were all across the board. But one of the ideas was about a young woman who leaves a doomsday cult and has to start over in the outside world, because I always thought, wouldn't that be interesting to find out what that's like? And Timber's itchy, so that's Timber back there.
I did not even see the dog back there.
Yeah, he's a large dog. You can't tell right now, but he's better known and more famous on Instagram and stuff than I am. So anyway,
I thought he was just a pillow.
Oh no, he's alive. That's 160 pounds of dog over there. So I went to New York and I had this cult idea, and then I had just read this news article about a reindeer carcass that had thawed in the Siberian permafrost, the melting Siberian permafrost. And when it thawed, it happened to be infected with anthrax. And so a nearby village got sick and a young boy died. And I thought, that's terrifying. And then I read all these other news articles about scientists being leery about what's trapped in the permafrost and what could come out of it and what's still viable, and, zombie bacteria and microbes and, viruses and all this stuff. And so I took that idea too, which is not an original idea. There's been movies and other things about this before. But I just thought it'd be fun to try my take on it. And so during this meeting, my publisher said, I like this idea, the cult one, and this idea, the permafrost one, and I think you should put them together. And I remember thinking, well, how's that going to work? Okay. So I came home and started writing the story of Winter Roth, who is 22 years old, and she has just gotten booted out of the doomsday cult she grew up in, and so she's trying to start over in the outside world, just as a pandemic is sweeping across the nation, and the pandemic has come out of the permafrost. And so this series came out in 2019, right before COVID, and so it's a pandemic story. So
wow. Wow. So that was a true story, like when you was going through it, like the anthrax, that really did happen?
That is a real news story. Yeah, that's like in 2016 or so, I think it was, that really happened. And then there's all these other news articles about things scientists have, like, they've found seeds in the permafrost that are tens of thousands of years old, and they've managed to germinate and grow them. Bacteria that's millions of years old that, is still viable, stuff like that. So kind of scary. So
wow,
yeah.
Amazing. So you mentioned that you won awards for your 2 books that you've written. How did you feel when you won those awards?
Shocked for several reasons. I mean, it's always shocking when you win something because it's always a surprise. But with these 2 books coming out right before COVID, my big worry was that nobody would want to read them. And I thought, this is going to be so bad. And And these two books have won the most awards of any of my books, actually. So they each won an International Book Award. This one, The Line Between, won Nashville Silver Falchion, and it beat this book to win. So that was kind of funny. And then they finaled for some others. So this was just in the midst of all the chaos and all the of this last year. Those were a couple small, highlights along the way. So I was very grateful.
That's amazing. Congratulations for your award.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, who are a few of your favorite authors, and have any of them inspired your new novels, like your recently new novels?
Oh, well, okay, so I have to answer this carefully because I have a lot of author friends and I don't want to die. So, and I'm very fortunate now to call a lot of amazing authors my friends. When I started out, I didn't know anybody. But, a couple authors that I loved, early on, Anne Rice was one I've always enjoyed for her use of language. Her use of language, her command is just extraordinary. Another novel that I loved was Anita Diamant's The Red Tent, which inspired very much my second novel, which was the story of Eve. And I just remember reading The Red Tent and thinking, this language is so lush and beautiful and sumptuous and delicious. And she brought this story of this woman from the Bible, this obscure woman from the Bible, to such life with such language and amazing metaphors and similes. And I thought, I would love to write a book that feels like that. And so she was a big inspiration for Hava, the story of Eve, which was my second novel. And then I morphed into thrillers. So things changed a little bit, but I continue to be constantly amazed by the authors that I know and both I know and don't know. I recently had the pleasure of talking about some of the winners of the International Thriller Awards and getting to talk through each of these amazing books and what was so cool about each one. And I'm just constantly inspired by all different kinds of authors.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm a huge fan of Anne Rice, too. I like her Vampire Lestat.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's good. She's good.
Yeah.
So, what was your hardest scene to write in any of your novels, and why? Why was it your hardest scene?
My hardest scene? Oh, gosh. Some scenes are hard because of the mechanics. Like anytime you write a battle scene, for instance, there's a lot of choreography, and that's really hard. Anytime you write, something with a lot of stuff happening and you have to be very mindful of your pacing and things like that, that's really hard. But one of the most emotionally, I think, wrenching scenes, I can tell you a couple. One was I wrote a novel about Judas Iscariot, the betrayer of Jesus, and I wrote it in first person. And the scene that was so emotionally difficult, other than the end of the book got to be, difficult too, but the scene where Jesus is healing the leper, I wrote it and I was bawling the entire time. I just bawled. I cried and cried. And then the other thing was in The Line Between and A Single Light, I gave Winter obsessive compulsive disorder, which is something that I also have. And so it's weird writing a character who has it in first person when you also experience similar things. So it was a little triggering in a way. So I wouldn't say it was awful or anything, but it was challenging in its own way.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you had OCD. My grandma and my mom has it, but they don't want to admit it. They're like, no, we don't. I'm like, yeah, you do.
I do. It can be very crippling at times, and I like being able to include things like that in my books because, for those people who do have something, maybe not that, but something similar, or some other mental health challenge or something like that, my hope is that they'll not feel quite so alone or quite so different.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give to help others who want to pursue a writing career?
Oh gosh. Well, I'd say the first thing is read a lot and read in the genre that you love, and really read with two sides of your brain, the side that's enjoying it, of course, but also the side that's analyzing it and saying, wow, why did this scene just make me cry? Or what did I love about this? Or why did I just kind of skim this page? And, why did I kind of want to hurry through this part? So read it with your analytical mind and see what they're doing. Read authors that you really admire and enjoy and see what they're doing. And then I would also say take the opportunity as you can. And these days it may be online, it may be in person, but many of them are online now. Take the opportunity to learn through a conference, a writer's conference or a craft conference. There's so many of these, and it may just be that you'll be able to learn from this particular author whom you happen to love, because so many authors also teach or speak or go to these various events. And so see if you can learn from authors that you admire as well. And then, you know what, you got to write. You got to write. You can plan, you can outline, you can research, but at some point you have to sit down and you have to start trying it. And it may not be pretty, and that's okay. My first drafts are so terrible. It's awful. I mean, and I don't like messy, and I don't like seeing it like that. And but go ahead and just try it and let it be messy, and you can fix it later, because learning to edit and fix it up is part of the process.
Right, right. A lot of authors that I've interviewed have said exactly that. They said, just write. Just go ahead and write.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I don't want it to be, all over the place. They're like, well, just let it be all over the place. I'm like, yeah. But I agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on my podcast today and interviewing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You have a great day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Tosca. So if you would like to purchase any of her books, I have linked her website below. It's toscalee.com. And you can purchase all of her books. And I also noticed something else on her website that you all can do. She has that was really interesting that I've never seen on anyone else's website, was a book club. She has where you can order her books and do a book club meeting. And it comes with bookmarks and the books, and I think it's something else it comes with. And also, she mentioned her international thriller school online, and it is also on her website. You can go under calendar, and it'll have like the dates that she will have the writer thriller school online. So I want to thank you all so much for supporting my podcast, and thank you all so much for listening, sharing, and commenting. I really greatly appreciate it. And if you would like to donate to support, if you would like to support my podcast, a portion of my proceeds go to four foundations. It's the Bullying Foundation, the Suicide Prevention Foundation, the Deskovic Foundation, and the Freedom Writers Foundation. Thank you all so much. Have a great day and make great choices. Bye.